Morning everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Caterer.com Leadership Collaborative session. We've got a really packed agenda today with some amazing levels of experience to share with you, and I'm really excited about the content of this particular session, and I hope you'll get absolutely so much out of it as people in the industry responsible for people. So as you know, we're here today to with our friends from Hire and also from Smart Recruiter and also from Appical, and amongst those people I'm sure many of you already know Natasha, Alabi, Sophie, Chad, Sam, Ollie. You'll be familiar with those people, but we also have Tony from Appical, and behind the scenes the team from Smart Recruiter. So thank you to all of that gang for joining us today, and you'll see their faces as we go through the sessions. I'll be asking them to turn their cameras on and off as we go through. Today's session is in 3 parts, and our job today really is to look at how we navigate through change. I guess the one thing I would say, we all know that change is a constant in hospitality anyway, but boy, has there been so much change in the last 5-6 months. We've become used to change, but how we adapt to it and how we move ourselves forward and our teams forward through that change can make the difference between the success of our businesses and indeed our careers as well. So that's really what today is about. It's focusing on managing through that change as you onboard your teams, as you redeploy people, and then as you reskill yourself, because as a key person in that, you've got to up your skills along the way. So that's what this session is about today. Just realised I haven't introduced myself. If you need to know, I'm Kathy Dyball. I'm head of marketing at Caterer.com, and I'll be moderating the session today. Okay, so we've got 3 sessions in 3 parts. I'm just going to use my notes because I want to make this clear to everybody. The 3 parts will be first, a session on how to successfully reboard your teams. I know that many of you have already begun or even completed your reboarding, but reboarding doesn't happen on one day, does it? It's an ongoing process. So lots to share there. Second session on how to provide excellent redeployment and alumni services for those who sadly you may not be able to bring back. That is again a reality and a change that we all have to face at the moment. No point pretending it otherwise. And then finally, how to upskill yourself for this new hospitality world as those responsible for talent acquisition, for people, whether it be HR, L&D, employer brand. How can you reskill and upskill yourself to be as resilient as possible in this new world? And I can't think of a better panel to share their insight with us. So we'll move on to that in a minute. And in this last session, I just wanted to make clear that we'll be joined by Tony from Smart Recruiters, who'll be talking a little bit about their methodology to help you grow and reskill yourself. And he'll be explaining a fantastic new resource that they have, which I honestly recommend that all of you tap into. It's free as well, which always helps. Along the way, we are going to be running a little competition. We're not giving the prize today, but I would, listening to this, if you can share your best ideas on how to reboard and onboard your teams, share them in the chat function. We'll also be sending a link out afterwards so you can share your ideas. This may be stuff you've already done. It doesn't have to be a new idea. And you can then win an Appical app for your company. And that's a fantastic prize. It's an onboarding app which will help you to onboard and reboard your teams in a really seamless and high-level communication way. So I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that later, but have it in your mind to share those ideas through. Okay, any questions along the way? If you don't understand anything, if you want us to cover something, put that in the chat, and then we'll cover it. This is a fluid session, and it's for you to help you. If it doesn't help you, let us know straight away. Okay. So let's go straight away into our first session then, where we will be kicking off about reboarding. Can I ask, please, Natasha and Sam to turn on their cameras? This is the first little hurdle. Yes, we've got Sam. Yes, we've got Natasha. Brilliant. Okay, so can we start maybe, Sam and Natasha, for those who don't know you, can you just introduce yourselves, a little bit about who you are and what your current roles are?
Ladies first.
So I'm Natasha, and I look after the employer branding and talent
teams at Q Green Hotels. I hope everybody on the webinar today knows about who Q Green Hotels are now, because of the wonderful work that my team have been doing on the employer branding piece over the last couple of years. But for those who don't, you'll know the brands that we work with, so Hilton, Marriott, IHG, Holiday Inn, etc. And we're 55 hotels across the UK. Throughout the pandemic, we stayed open, so quite unique in the sense that we provided 130,000 rooms for key workers during that time. So we've had a mix of people that have both been at work, and then the challenge of starting to now look at reboarding people as we start to bring people back. So a mix of challenges throughout this period of time.
Okay, and Sam, how about you?
Hello everyone, my name's Sam. I look after talent acquisition for the operational business part of Nando, so hopefully everyone knows who Nando's are. We are kind of on the same road as everyone else at the moment. We are kind of coming to the end of our reopening journey, and it has been it's been really interesting. It's been fantastic to get teams back into restaurants and see customers back enjoying peri-peri. So yeah, really looking forward to being part of the conversation today.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see, excellent expertise there, and so we're going to understand a little bit from Natasha and Sam about reboarding. So let me start with the first question. This is not directed to either one of you. None of these questions are. Just have a conversation about it. So, why does reboarding deserve so much consideration? I mean, do we think we know all we need to know about it and don't need to rethink this? Why does it matter to get it right?
Do you want me to start, Natasha? So I think it's a really interesting question. I think it matters because, and the word unprecedented has been used so much over the past couple of months, right? But actually, let's use it again, because we have all gone through something unprecedented, and our teams have gone through something unprecedented, and particularly in our industry where a huge percentage of our teams have been furloughed, actually that will be an experience that many of them will never ever have had before. And with that comes a whole heap of uncertainty, a whole heap of self-talk, a whole heap of anxiety, and actually the role of onboarding is a really critical part that we play to make them feel safe coming back to work. That's the number one, but also make them feel confident, reignite their purpose, why they're coming back, and feeling really confident and happy coming back, whether that's into a restaurant or a head office environment. I think before I hand over to Natasha, I'd also say the world has changed. Our ways of working have shifted massively in such a small space of time. Whether you're in a restaurant or a hotel, or you're in an office function, there's a likelihood there's going to be enhanced technology, different processes, teams working in incredibly different ways, whether that's because of safety measures, kind of just the way we've had to move in a very, very fast pace to adapt to the kind of changing world we're working in. And actually, for those guys that have been furloughed, they haven't been part of that change, and actually if we've been working through it, which some of us have been lucky to be doing, we've gone on that change curve, and actually we need to help them go on that change curve and give them space and time to kind of to work through that and to understand kind of where they fit into that. So that's why I would say it's really important to get it right.
So it's change management as much as anything else, I guess. I mean, Natasha, what would you add to that, and also what would you say that how does reboarding differ from onboarding, which we're more familiar with?
Yeah, I think onboarding, I know there will be slight nuances depending on particular departments and levels of seniority within organisations, but largely speaking, certainly for us, the onboarding process is very much the same in the sense of this is our culture, this is the way we do things, and you know, this is what success likes in our organisation, and how you'll be delivering against that. Whereas reboarding, I think, certainly because everybody's experience throughout this period of time has been completely different, and people have had different complexities and things that are going on in their own personal circumstances. And then you've also got varying degrees of how people feel about coming back to work. So some people are probably, you know, what we've seen is absolutely desperate to get back into the workplace, and they want to do their training and they just want to crack on and get on with it. Whereas On the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got some people that are genuinely concerned and worried about how they're going to come back, how they're going to make things work with, you know, childcare commitments, etc. And I think the difference then between onboarding, that's largely stays much the same, and reboarding, is that need to really adapt to everybody's personal circumstances and take that continual feedback and be willing to adapt the process based on individuals' needs and expectations. Yeah.
There's no one way to respond to this, is there, when you have such a mixed set of reactions and the emotions involved in it, as well as the fact that you've got to get those people into a robust frame of mind and deliver as you need them to. So what have you done, you know, within your own workplaces? Obviously, we can't share any granular sensitive information here, but can you give us some examples of how you've approached it yourselves?
I guess we've talked to our teams. I know that sounds so simple, but actually surveys, conversations, finding out what they need. I think we can sometimes make assumptions quite quickly of, oh, they're going to need to know X, Y, and Z when they come back. Actually, the best way to find out how that, all of the different instances, as Natasha said, of what people need is by talking to them. I can talk for my team personally. This journey started at the beginning of this, giving them time and space to talk about their feelings, talk about that journey through furlough, but also keeping them really close to what's going on in the business. So actually, when they're coming back, nothing is a major surprise. Yes, we will need to help them deal with the new ways of working. We'll have to help them fit that around their lives, but actually they still feel Nando's, they still feel the culture, they know the direction of the business, they know the change the business is going through, so that then we can help them understand what part they play in that. So yeah, for me, it's like communication. This is all about talking to them and listening, really, really listening and acting on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so, and Natasha, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say exactly the same, and it does sound simple, but we realised very early on that we needed to have like a continual feedback loop from people that are both working and also on furlough. So we launched, we partnered with the Happiness Index to essentially have a survey where our teams at any given moment, multiple times a day if they wanted to, tell us on a scale of 1 to 10 how they're feeling on that day in a free text box, and they could literally just tell us how it is that they're feeling. So it meant that from a communications perspective, it was like really current. We could go out with messages that reacted straight away to how people were feeling, what they needed, etc. And in a similar way, we launched a What's New at Q, and it was a weekly communication that went out across the business. And I guess one of the things that we really wanted to help people that weren't at work with was that onboarding's in some ways simpler because they don't come with any preconceived ideas. They're learning a new workplace. They're going into a new physical environment that's completely different. So in a way that they're not programmed to behave in a certain way. Whereas with reboarding, we wanted them to see that the workplace looks different. They're doing different things. There are stories of success that are measured in a different way to the way things were previously measured all the way through. So it wasn't complex for people to come back into the same physical space and have entirely different expectations of what like good performance looks like and how they'll be working. So it does sound simple, but it's really, really important to keep that dialogue open for us.
And that, I mean, that excellent ongoing communication that both your businesses have managed from day one really will not have been communicated necessarily in all businesses. It might not have been possible, they didn't have the infrastructure to do it, but that's where technology can sometimes be a real bonus, isn't it? So, you know, mentioning the Appical app, that's kind of what we're saying here. If you want to win that app, then put your ideas into the chat box, by the way. But, you know, that's a way. I love the fact that you were asking, Natasha, your teams how they felt regularly through an easy to respond tech tool. How often do we actually get asked how we feel and someone listening to the answer? So those simple things, as you say, it sounds simple, but the simple things are often the hardest to do and the most effective when you do deliver them. So fantastic. Okay, so the last question, because, you know, we're whipping through these 3 sessions like, you know, like nobody's business, but any questions, of course, we will answer at the end. To summarize, you know, what would you say, each of you, are sort of the key takeaways here from your experience of reboarding your teams? What are the, let's say if you had 2 or 3 top tips to share that could be like, let me just remember that, I'm going to just focus on those. What would you say to
Mine would be, it starts now, communicate, listen, action. You can't communicate, listen, and then do nothing. You have to communicate, listen, action. But then it continues once people are back. So treat this like anyone coming back from any sort of leave, parental leave, long-term sick, a career break, and actually build an induction plan. Don't kind of expect you're going to turn the lights on and everyone's going to be running. Actually give people a couple of weeks, a month, whatever they need, but as well as practical transactional stuff, learning process and systems, give them space to talk about how they feel.
Yeah.
Excellent. Natasha, how about you?
I'd probably add, like, all of that is like perfect, but as well, one of the big ones is around setting objectives, and quite early on, because people want to be able to understand what that performance needs to look like in this new world. And I think that sense of accomplishment that's very different to what it was previously will help people to feel like back as part of the team and know that they're contributing towards our success.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from that then is listen, act, outline clear objectives, yeah, keep communicating. Good lessons for life, I would say. You know, when you're dealing with people, that's what people need, isn't it? Clarity and to be heard and to see that something's happening when they speak. So fantastic, really, really useful, guys. Thank you very much. I'm just going to remind everyone to do put your ideas on reboarding into the chat function for a chance to win that app. We'll be announcing the winner in a couple of weeks. It's simple as it sounds. You know, you've probably already done what needs to be done. Let's have those ideas in the chat box. But thank you, Sam. Thank you, Natasha, for excellent insight. I'm going to ask you to say goodbye, turn your cameras off at least for now. Thank you. And then we're going to welcome Ollie and Sophie to turn their cameras on, please, for the next session, which is around redeployment. Hey, Ollie.
Hello. Hey. Hello. How are you doing?
All right, we're getting on all right. Oh, we're on time. That's pretty impressive. Let's see how we go on this second session. So before we start chatting and for you to share your insight, let's introduce you. So Sophie, you start and let everyone know who you are and where you come from.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sophie. I look after talent acquisition for Rare Restaurants, which includes Gaucho, which some of you guys might know is a collection of restaurants that gives a nod to Argentinian foods. We specialise in steak and global wines, and we also look after M Restaurants as well.
Thank you. I'm quite peckish now, having heard that description. Ollie, introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Ollie. I'm head of employer brand at Honest Burgers. So I look after recruitment, employer brands, engagement and internal comms. We sell great burgers and that's what we do. We've got about 40 kitchens and restaurants across the UK now. So thanks for having us.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so we're going to talk about redeployment now, and the reason that we need to discuss this is, you know, we can't avoid it. At the end of the day, because of the situation that the sector is in, because of what's happened to the sector, no fault of anyone in the sector, some people are going to have to be let go. That is the reality and a sad reality. But how we deal with that can make all the difference then, can't it, to how those people go on through their careers and how we as businesses as well continue into the future. So I guess it's about doing the right thing, but also about doing the right thing for the strength of the businesses going forward. So let's talk about how you might redeploy individuals, and also thinking about alumni as well. How do you keep in touch? How do you keep the job going with people that really you didn't want to let go, you just have had to? So let's start then. We've got some questions here for you, 3 or 4 questions. We'll start by asking you, and what do you see as the priorities here, you know, when handling the redundancy process specifically? What's front of mind for you?
So I would say there's a few clear things that you have to focus on if you are considering the redundancy process, which is obviously ultimately being fair, being objective, being compassionate, understanding that everyone has a different situation, everyone has different personal things going on in their lives, families, etc. So you have to really understand your team, understand your employees, listen to them, and really have clear and simple communication throughout the whole process, with a kind of crystal clear timeline, realistic outcomes, etc. So that there's no shocks throughout, because it can be a tough time, a sensitive time, obviously, for all parties. But really, kind of before you get to the redundancy, you know, I would implore anyone to think about alternative options first, and, you know, think about all the things that most of the people on this call probably did, which was have a recruitment freeze or cut down on overtime first, and then ultimately think about cross-department training or potential secondments, etc., even sabbaticals, before you get to that final option of redundancy, and really looking at the whole picture and not just now and the future, you know, workforce planning, because the future might not be the same as now. We've all seen that the last 6 months have completely changed our lives and our businesses. So you've got to have future foresight.
Absolutely, because we're not going to be where we are now forever. 6 months, 12, 18 months, 24 months. You know, we won't. People don't talk about Brexit. We're starting to talk about Brexit a bit more now, but there may well be a skills gap again in the future. So it's thinking about that too, isn't it? And Ollie, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's everything that Sophie said, and it's a really sensitive subject because people are still going through it at the moment, and we're not at the end of the road, and there's still going to be more redundancies coming up. So I think from our side, and certainly from how we're handling it, is, you know, you just got to be human, and you got to just kind of follow your heart and treat it as if how you'd want it if you are on the receiving ends of redundancy. So it's just having that kind of empathy and understanding the pre-care and then the aftercare and the follow-up as well.
Also, I think another thing to add is, if possible, kind of the widest selection criteria as possible, so that you consider people, not just people's location or length of service, but also extra skills, extra competencies, extra qualifications, etc., so that you're really seeing the wider picture, and you can think about, if the landscape changes, could they be suitable for future roles or future skills or future competencies.
So that kind of brings us on to the topic of redeployment and how you think about that as a short-term or long-term thing, and I guess that's sometimes called talent pooling, pipelining, or whatever label you want to put on it. You know, when we look at, let's call it redeployment for now, sort of what steps can people take to try and redeploy people who they have had to let go?
So, oh, go on. Sorry,
Ollie. Go on, Sophie.
My advice would just really get some fantastic communication going with your teams. Obviously, furlough presented this kind of strange time frame to us, and particularly us in hospitality, who rarely stop and keep going and keep going. So chances are, during that time frame, your team could have really upskilled themselves. Lots of people we heard about doing multiple webinars, learning more tech, learning more platforms, you know, and really upskilling themselves, signing up for apprenticeships, CIPD, etc., etc. So really chatting to your teams and understanding what extra skill sets do they have other than their existing technical skills for that particular role. And not just that, obviously, most of us who are in hospitality, it's not just technical skills that we specialise in, it's the wider soft skills around HR, recruitment, working with people from multiple backgrounds, juggling multiple workloads. And are there options? Can you think outside the box? Can you work with your directors or your operations team to really think about, could these people be suitable in another role? Could we stretch them? Could we offer a trial period with a different department? Could we set them up for shadowing with someone else? And really having these brainstorms with your senior leadership teams as well as with your team members to see if they're open to consider different departments, different roles, different locations, and really being open and honest around brainstorming and what people are open to consider.
That's excellent attention to detail there, thinking about the individuals rather than, you know, what we say, the heart count, not the head count. And even though you're not a small business, it's possible to give that attention to detail. And Ollie, how about you? What are your thoughts on this about redeployment and your approach?
Yeah, I think we've taken the approach that every job matters, and if it means that people need to kind of go into a different department because of that skill set, because of the restructure, then you know we want to try and make that available for them. You know, from the start, from before lockdown, we've had constant communication from directors going live every single week. So we're educating and we're being as transparent as possible to our teams, so it's not out of the blue, so they understand exactly how is the business performing, property rents, so they know everything what's going on in the business. During lockdown, we opened 3 new kitchens, which enabled us to kind of bring back another 15 people off furlough, so it's kind of generating jobs there. Our head office, we restructured. Unfortunately, you know, we had to make 4 redundancies, which I know isn't a lot compared to some of the thousands that are being talked about on the news, but it's still 4 people, 4 families, 4 bills, and they're people, you know. So it's how we go about that. But we've had to do it to enhance technology, so that's been able to create new positions where then we've redeployed teams who have got experience using tech or a specialist area to go and take a new position. But you know, it has affected about 18 people. You know, 18 people have taken on new positions in support function. And we've done everything we can to develop them into their new positions. But then from a restaurant level, again, you know, we've trained about 150 waiters to work in the kitchen. So that's 150 people that we've created kind of jobs for, where you know, we didn't want to be, you know, we didn't want to go down the route of just chopping 200 jobs, because that's not who we are. That was probably the easy option, but instead we spoke to every single individual to understand exactly their needs. So they might be going to university, so actually they only need 4 hours, or you know, someone might have, you know, 3 kids and they're a single parent, and actually they do need the hours. So we've gone down the long route by understanding every single person's needs, and then we've done everything we can to be able to create hours for them whilst they've been on furlough, or to bring them back off furlough, or kind of part-time during furlough. So for those 4 people who have been made redundant, you know, we've helped them, and if there are any more redundancies, which we just don't know yet, it's very much the unknown. If the job comes back open to them in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, we're going to welcome them back with open arms, because they're great people ultimately. So we don't want to lose them, but we may.
Let's talk about that there. I mean, what's fantastic is that adaptability that you've demonstrated there, and thinking, okay, exactly as you said, where can we reskill these people or move them into a different department where we do need individuals. But for those that you've had to let go, both of you, and you know, as you say, we don't know what's to come. Talk to me about the alumni concept and how you've adopted that within your businesses. How are you keeping in touch?
So ultimately, I think it's down to multiple different kind of angles. So ensuring that they've got access to any of our platforms, for instance, Flow, if they want to keep learning, making sure that they've got access to company updates, that they've got regular check-ins, that we can send over any materials around top CV writing, hints and tips, etc. Access to any kind of mental health support, fitness, making them still feel engaged and part of our team and part of our brand. You know, offering any kinds of invites to any online kind of events, or if necessary, kind of almost like kit days, if necessary, if that's what the candidate wants, you know, and being open just to treating each one differently. Some people might want to be left alone and only contacted once a month. Other people might want to be involved in our cocktail masterclasses or our exercise or our yoga things that we do, you know. So really treating each one differently and doing it ad hoc on their personal kind of choices and opinions.
And you know, you guys are both from hire, so apart from the busy jobs that you have in the daytime, by night you are hire, and so that's internal recruitment exchange. Forgive me if I got that wrong. I think that's right. I know you as hire, and hire is a great bunch of really vibrant, focused individuals who want to help the talent acquisition community. But you've also extended your reach kind of further and further through this, really, haven't you? So you've created some useful tools to help those who need to be redeployed. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that and share that insight with the delegates here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most recent project we worked on is Get Hired, and ultimately what we've seen is there's a lot of people looking for jobs, obviously, and we don't want those people to get lost. The idea came of, let's just create a platform where we can hold jobs for people, and for people to be able to showcase who they are as well, just to make it easier for the individual to see what jobs are available, and then for the company, easier for them because it's not going to cost them to host a job or post a job. And you know, hospitality is all about collaboration, and a lot of it's who you know and having the right skill set. So it's kind of us doing a part of the work for them, just to try and introduce people to jobs and jobs to people. And hopefully, and the idea is, if we can place one person or get one person a job, that's a result for us. We're not trying to take over the world with it. It's just about trying to do something good for people in positions like us who unfortunately have lost their job.
And that's the search.
And we really wanted to create something that was specifically for hospitality recruiters, HR or trainers, people in the L&D function, particularly for kind of our kind of niche community. Obviously, we appreciate there's other platforms and other channels where you can find jobs, but we know that pages and numbers and platforms have gone up so much over the furlough time. So we just wanted to create a small kind of niche platform for people in our community, specifically wanting those jobs, where we could recommend and network and help each other out, really.
Yeah. So for anyone listening here, if you find yourself in the position of wanting to move jobs, or you need to find a new job, then you can create a profile there. You can share your profile with the system there, or the hire team, and they can help you there. But also you can search specifically within that group of jobs that are relevant to you. You don't have to wade through anything that's relevant. So that's curated in that sense, which, you know, is exactly that kind of tailored approach that you've been outlining here, that you're taking to your people within your own businesses as individuals. So it's been fantastic to hear from you on that. I know it's not a difficult, an easy subject to talk about. It's very sensitive, as you say. Human beings are involved in this, and that's why this considered approach is so crucial. So thank you for being honest and sharing your insight there. I'm going to ask you to turn your cameras off now. I have to say goodbye to you for the moment, and then we're going to start the next session. We may back at the end to ask questions from the audience. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
And now Chad, Olajide and Tony, can you please turn your cameras on?
Hey. Hello.
Hello. Here he is. Right. Okay. Thank you. Right. So now we're going to talk about reskilling, which obviously is a subject that everyone's extremely interested in at the moment in terms of their own teams, but also themselves. You know, we've already touched a lot on through this session the need to adapt, the need to change, the need to adapt to change, and that means really thinking about, well, what are my skills? What other skills might I need? How can I improve those skills, hone those skills? And I guess that there's a real appetite and environment for that at the moment. So now is the time, I guess, is what we might be saying. So to begin with, before we start this session, let's have some introductions. So Chad, do you want to start and let us know who you are and where you work, what your background is?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Chad. I am currently supporting the recruitment team at Prezzo restaurants. Previously, I was head of recruitment at Pepper Restaurant Group up until earlier this year. And obviously, as Kathy mentioned earlier, very much involved with the hire on the sidelines as well.
Okay, and Olajide, do you want to let us know a little
Hi
bit about...
everyone, I am Olajide. I'm the recruitment manager for Gourmet Burger Kitchen. We also do great burgers. And yeah, we've got about 60 restaurants across the UK and Ireland.
Thank you. Good. And Tony?
Yeah, hello, nice to meet you all. Yeah, I'm Tony. I work at Smart Recruiters ATS as hiring success director in the EMEA region. A little bit about me. I'm located in Berlin. I'm Dutch, as you probably can hear by my accent. And I am a TA leader by heart. My previous job, I was heading up the TA team as head of talent for one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the Netherlands. And before that, for a few international fashion brands. And as probably a lot of recruiters, I started my career on the agency side. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us. So in this last session, we're going to talk about, you know, the reskilling of us as individuals specifically. I think we're going to focus on that now. So let's start by talking about what it's like to be in the talent acquisition world right now, whether you be from an HR background, an L&D, talent acquisition specifically. What kind of new roles and responsibilities are people within that community having to take on now? Hiring managers and recruitment managers, what does it look like?
I think there's been a huge amount of change over the last, well, 6 months or so. Obviously, with lockdown, recruitment pretty much ran to a halt. I think many hospitality recruiters found themselves furloughed. But for those that weren't, their roles did change significantly. And I think it became almost 100% internal facing. Obviously, as recruiters, we spend a lot of time kind of reaching out, but this kind of period saw the focus going inwards into the business. So particularly operationally, the roles increased on that side of things, a lot more heavy focus on operations, working with the operations managers, make it, especially now when we're seeing the reopenings that have been going on. And also a big shift towards health and safety and workplace safety. I think there was a lot of recruiters and HR that kind of taken a complete sidestep from their roles and getting involved with HR audits, basically making sure the workplace was safe, and that when the team members came back, that they were going to feel comfortable and protected, which is obviously an important part of the reopening process. We've also seen an increased focus on the internal communication side. So I mentioned earlier how important it is. I think engagement was a big thing through lockdown. Everyone had their fair share of Zoom quizzes. And I think some brands went way beyond that. Obviously, Ollie and Honest Burgers, I'll give a shout out there. They actually made the news because of how good their engagement was with their hit sessions and their director chats and everything else that they were doing. So, you know, engagement became a huge part of the recruiter's role, even more so than it was before, perhaps. But I think importantly with the internal comms side of things, again, Sam alluded to it, it was about keeping the teams informed and assured every step of the way. So an element of almost becoming counsellors and counselling for the people within the business, you know, checking in on the employees, being that point of contact if they have any questions, as Natasha said, doing the happiness surveys, making sure that they're feeling okay, and making sure that essentially the team are going to come back and feel like they want to be there.
And how about you, Alabi? How have you approached, and what would you say within the roles, your role, your peers' roles, how have things changed?
I think just kind of mirroring what Chad just said, really, to be honest. I think engagement has just become so much more important now because as our restaurants are starting to fully open, some of our restaurants still aren't fully open. So as that starts to happen, and I think in the next 2 months or so, as furlough ends, we have to start thinking about actually those people that have been on furlough for the past 6 months, how do you get them to be re-engaged with your business and to get excited about the brand again? So yeah, I think for me particularly, I think my role and the team's role is all around getting everyone excited internally, but also getting that message out there of what this new world of working in a hospitality restaurant is like. So for us at GBK, we've been sharing stories around from our restaurant managers as to what it's like working in a GBK now that we have to wear masks all day, and now that you have to clean every 10 minutes. And so I think our focus has been on a lot of internal engagement, but also like sharing a story about what the new world of hospitality is like.
And you've mentioned teams there, obviously the importance of, you know, that's your focus, is getting those teams excited and back in. I mean, you know, what kind of adjusting has needed to happen? What have been the challenges for you as individuals in role to enable that?
I mean, in terms of challenges, it is just about, I think there's been a lot of thinking on your feet and just having to go with the flow, so to speak, especially with the changing guidelines that are coming from the government. They do change quite regularly, so there may be kind of a plan of action in place, and then new guidelines come in, and then you kind of have to redirect and divert onto a new plan. So there's been a lot of kind of agile, reactive working going on, which I think has been challenging for a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of benefits to that as well at the same time. And you know, I think out of this situation, some of the benefits that have come as well are certainly around kind of people in businesses are probably working closer together and getting to know each other probably more than they ever have done, partly because sometimes there's fewer people in the business, but just because you're going to have to cooperate and communicate a lot more with each other to make sure that everyone's on the same page and working together moving forward. So yeah, working closer together and working in a much more agile way, I think, has been quite a big shift over recent weeks and months.
Then when it comes to then the skills needed for these roles, because that is a major gear shift, you know, although you may have those skills innately, some of them, clearly it's been headfirst in to adapting. So when you're thinking about upskilling yourself within that role and how you become resilient and have the tools needed, you know, what should be considered? What would you recommend? What have you thought about as a TA professional?
I think when I think about upskilling in this new world, I think I break it down into kind of 5 key aspects. And I think about you and your role. I think about tech. I think about political issues, your team, and then your personal life. And if we go into some of those, so like if you think about you and your role as a TA, the most important thing in the world where face-to-face contact is dwindling and lasting impressions are like everything, personal branding is everything as well. Everything is so important. So how do you want to be remembered? So like things like turning up to Zoom meetings and showing up on time and looking like you're presentable and stuff like that, that's all around your personal branding. The tone of your emails, because we are sending more emails than ever, and I think I read an article where it said we have a 20% increase in emails sending since March, which is crazy to think, because I know that before March I was sending enough emails, so to think 20% extra. So yeah, especially when you're sending so many emails, it's watching your tone on those emails, because that all reflects on your personal branding as well. We need to just be more observant, I guess. And then you think about social media, like, are you visible on social media? Obviously mainly LinkedIn, because that's professional, but are you posting regularly? Are you sharing rich content? Are you promoting your brand? Are you commenting on the posts? Do you need to maybe go and look at doing a social media course to upskill yourself? I think it mattered so much before, and it's even more important now, and everything that you post really does count in terms of you and your brand. And then when you think about how you're ensuring that as a TA that you're staying on top of your game, one of the great tools that we recommend would be the Hiring Success by Smart Recruiters, to help you and your business to understand the process you need to put into place in order to attract and hire the best talent. The tools help you to be more strategic, find gaps in your current strategy, and then build a talent pipeline for the future. So the benefits are amazing, but I'm not gonna bore you with all that, because I think Tony will be able to give you more detail and go into a lot more later on.
Definitely.
But the second important upskill I think would be tech. There hasn't been a better time to ensure that you're on trend with what's going on out there in the world of technology. And there's so many amazing tools out there that you can use. For instance, Zoom. There's things that I've learned on doing on Zoom that I never knew you could do on Zoom, like the breakout rooms. Obviously, you have to pay for that, but there are some great tools out there for you on Zoom. And Hire actually did a really great post on social media about the functions of Zoom and Miro and Trello. So I'll go and look at our social posts if you want to learn more about how to use those tools. But it's really important that you're utilizing them. And then if you think about social media in the last 6 months, it definitely feels like it's gone on ecstasy, because it's just everyone's on social, everyone's scrolling constantly all day, every day. So it's how are you utilizing social media platforms in your business in order to attract talent? Whether or not you need to, like I said, go on a course for that. But there's so much you can be doing on social media. Like the TikTok craze definitely seems to have been dying down, but is it a platform that you and your business could be using to potentially get your brand out there?
Yeah, I think on the technology point as well, that's key, everything that's just been said there. But I think it's about understanding how technology is going to be utilized and used in your role as well, not just now, but moving forward. And I think, we're in the world of remote working now. And so tools like Zoom and Teams and everything are going to be more and more commonplace. So getting the most out of those collaboration tools like Trello and Miro as well, they can all be very useful when you're working on team projects. But I think certainly from a recruitment and TA point of view, technology is increasingly going to be used as part of the recruiter's role and in the application process. So automated screening, particularly with high volume roles, and obviously we're seeing a huge amount of applications coming through at the moment. So using technology to help make that process easier for you, but also better for the candidates as well. So yeah, automated screening when it comes to CVs. This will obviously have a knock-on effect that if you're setting it up right, that you're reducing bias through the recruitment process. And it also enables the recruiter to come in at a later stage in the process, not kind of taking up all of their time with screening CVs and that initial stage, but coming in and being able to kind of advise and add value later on in the recruitment process, rather than being bogged down with admin. So understanding how technology can help your role and what technologies are out there to do, which is obviously what Smart Recruiters is great at as well, because they partner with so many different vendors. I think that's going to be an important way of upskilling yourself, and then how you can use that tech to also generate metrics that are going to help you in your role, because I think we all love a bit of data, but I think as HR and recruitment professionals, we kind of need to become a bit more data centric and say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and this is the data to support that. Because I think historically we've been a little bit, wishy-washy maybe in terms of the reasons why we want to do something or the results that we've gained from it. Businesses respond very well to sales and marketing because they have everything, they have the tangible results, return on investment, and it's moving towards that as a TA leader. that we need to get to so that we can show exactly what we're doing and what results we're getting from it. So upskilling on tech, I think, is going to be a really important thing to do as a recruiter.
Yeah.
So go on, Tony.
No, I just wanted to say, yeah, I think I completely recognize what you're saying, right? And I think it's also a little bit in rearranging the tools in our toolbox, right? So upskilling is also reapplying what we know in a different way. If we furlough 20% of the organization and we have this pool of people that we need to stay in touch with, kind of sounds familiar, like how we do talent pooling and how do you engage with them, etc. So there's also that you see these new tasks that we didn't have before come back on our plate to do it, because we do have the right skill set there, but we just need to reskill, upskill, reutilize it, and use it in different ways, right? And I think how we, as an organization, how you treat your furloughed candidates is one of your best employer branding cases that you can have right now. So how do you still stay true to your values and how you treat your people, how you communicate with them? So I think working with your furloughed people and making that a great success is not only important for the people and right now here, but this is literally a beautiful showcase for you as well to show how you treat your people. And we need to remember that as well, right? From the positive and the other side as well, right? So if you don't treat that well and you're posting, we're treating people like this and these are our values, but this is not how you translate this, how you work with your furloughed people, I think you do have a problem. So it's all connected. So it's rearranging the skills that we have and utilizing them in a different way.
Mm.
Absolutely. And just before we come back to you, Tony, because we do want to hear about how smart recruiters can help, especially regarding hiring success, which we've referred to earlier. I just want to touch on hire one more time, because we've mentioned that brilliant post around how to get the most out of Zoom. I've definitely learned a lot. I was reading that article. Right. Oh my God, we can do that. I can do this. So I'm going to go on there and try that right now. So, it was really brilliant. And there's, all your posts are always so informative and accessible. So just if you can sort of summarize a little bit about, how you're helping people through this time and why they should head on over, and if they're not already digesting your content, why they should be.
Yeah. So this is our hire plug. This is fantastic. I love it. I actually felt so privileged being part of the group. Like, it was so nice to be asked to join, and it's such a great group to be part of, because there's so many fantastic ideas that we're working on, and we've actually got a catch-up team meeting today, which is going to be amazing. We're going to brainstorm loads more stuff to do for the future. But some of the great stuff that we have done so far, it was mentioned earlier before, obviously we created Get Hired, which is here to support anyone looking for a role in training, HR and recruitment. So we're again really lucky to have partnered up with caterer.com and Total Jobs to bring all those people-focused roles onto one site. I don't think there's anything quite like it anywhere else. And we have plans to slowly become a kind of like a resource centre for tips on interviewing, personal branding, how to network, things like that. But for now, those are stuff we're going to be working on in the background. But for now, it's just a really great jobs page. So if you're looking for a role, please head over there. We've also, during lockdown, created some great tips for a more LGBT inclusive workplace. We did the whole Black Lives Matter resource pack. And as I said earlier, we did the top tips on using tech, things like Zoom and Miro. And all this can be found on our socials. If you follow us at the Hire Rebellion or on LinkedIn, yeah, it's all on there. And I think there's some great stuff that we're working on for the future. And it'd be great to maybe sometime next year have an event again. But yeah, that's it.
I think furlough's been really transformative for Hire. To be fair, we set up Hire. It's nearly a year ago, so we're not even a year old, which is crazy, but it feels like it's been around for a lot longer, in a good way. But we obviously set it up as an events initiative. We wanted to do great, engaging events, which obviously you and caterer.com were hugely supportive of when we did our first event last November, which was amazing. And we plan to have events lined up this year, but as soon as lockdown kicked in, that kind of changed our complete plan for what Hire kind of was going to be. So we've had to regroup, readjust, and we did literally regroup because we've obviously added some great team members now. So there's 7 of us now, which is amazing. And yeah, we've kind of taken this shift from being an events-based kind of networking group to very much online and resource and support orientated. And yeah, we're all very excited about Get Hired. As mentioned, there's no other place that we can think of that if you're in recruitment, HR, or training, that you can go to and just have dedicated job roles, and that's obviously all fed through caterer.com and Total Jobs. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for people in terms of new job roles. So yeah, lots of really exciting stuff going on, and we can't wait until we can do a face-to-face event again, but we'll see what the government says about that.
Definitely. I mean, I think if you're not already part of the Hire network, then do join. It's a kind of a, I was thinking like a gang, everyone wants to be part of that gang. That's why we're quite keen to we love working, caterer.com loves working with Hire. Okay, so as we come to the end of the hour, it's time to talk to Tony about hiring success module. So Tony, I know you've been instrumental in this. You know, there's a great brain between those headphones, I know, because you know the hiring success module is really impressive and it's really inspiring, and I personally had a look through it, and it's something that I would certainly recommend. But you're going to tell us a little bit more about what it is, why anyone should be interested in getting involved with it, and then perhaps Chad can tell us. I know Chad, you've done the module too, so you can tell us a little bit about that. So to you, Tony, tell us.
Yeah, I've heard so too, Chad. So I'm really wondering how you are experiencing. Curious about it, but I think it's most easy to start with who we are as smart recruiters, right? So we as smart recruiters provide, for the people who don't know, is a complete talent acquisition suite from enterprise grade to small businesses, and we are really proud to be working with brands like Deloitte, McDonald's, H&M, Twitter, and IKEA, and lots more. And as an organization, we have a goal to connect people to jobs at scale. This is what we set out to do. And to help TA teams to become successful in hiring great talent for their specific organization, or as we call it, achieve hiring success. We want to help TA teams achieve hiring success. So what achieving hiring success means for us, we define it. I think that you always almost already perfectly quoted it. There's the ability to attract, select, and hire the best talent for any role on demand and on budget. It's a mouthful, but if you make this promise for all your roles to your CEO, we all know that you're going to have some sleepless nights, because we know that you have, when you run a smooth operation within TA, you can probably promise this for 70–80% of your roles. But again, it's about the vision. This is what you want to achieve eventually, solve the talent challenges for your organization. And to achieve this, we do understand as smart recruiters that this goes further than just focusing on the technology that you have in place, right? And this realization is, I think, the thing that sparked hiring success to come to life. And with what we do with hiring success, we kind of zoom out and take a look at the entire TA function within an organization. And specifically, we look at the balance between people, process, and technology. And actually more around the disbalances between this, because you need to find the right balance for every aspect that you have within talent acquisition. And how we do that is that we divided it in 3 pillars. So first one is talent attraction and engagement, everything top funnel. The second one is collaboration and selection, that's in the funnel. And I always think in literal images. So if you have a candidate, how do you grab him or her by the ankle, pull him or her down through the funnel with a great experience, don't lose the candidate, and how do you actually make sure that you take the right hiring decision, and even more so in this remote world, right? The last pillar is around the management and operating model. So how are you organized as TA function within the organization? How do you measure your own success? And how do you make sure you enter a loop of continuous improvement as TA function, right? So, and if you look at organizations that keep investing in these 3 pillars of hiring success, yeah, you can recognize them by that they have a strong and engaging candidate experience. They have a high degree of collaboration between the business and recruitment. And for me, that's recruitment is not responsible to fill the job. No, the hiring manager is responsible to have a complete team. And it's a collaboration, a mutual commitment between the business and recruitment. How are we going to solve these talent challenges that you have, right? So it's not they and us together, right? At the end of the day, you're one organization. And then the last one is that you will recognize that they have highly empowered recruiters. So pushing down the decision making as low as possible into the organization, that recruiters can actually do their jobs properly enabled by technology and properly enabled by being able to take decisions, right? We all been there one time in a career. We want to make an offer. We need 7 signatures. I go back to chat, I negotiate everything, and I need 100 quid a month extra. Can I do that? No. I have to go back and get 7 signatures again, right? So you need to make sure that also your processes are in place for recruiters to give that freedom and trust them to take the right commercial decision as well for the candidate and the organization. So back to why I'm here today. It's all about, again, upskilling ourselves, right? We as smart recruiters and hiring success were thinking, how could we leverage this methodology, as Sophie just mentioned as well, to help TA teams around the world to upskill in these times. And as talent acquisition, I think we always focus on others. We just heard enough examples on how we treat furloughed people and how we redeploy and onboard people again. But sometimes we tend to lose ourselves in the day-to-day and forget about our own upskilling, right? And I think that is recognizable, at least it is for me. And I guess it's recognizable for a few other people in TA as well. So we created the complete free hiring success masterclass on the entire hiring success methodology. And it has a total, I think, of 5 hours of free content. And you can take the entire masterclass and even get certified for hiring success certified, become that, or just follow the modules that are interesting for you. You have that free choice, and we will share this with everyone. And people can also even go to hiringsuccess.com, which is our platform for thought leadership around everything hiring success, from sharing articles, following the masterclass. You can see the book from our CEO Jerome on hiring success. And yeah, I think that's it. So I'm happy to share this with all of you, and would love to hear the feedback. As I also I am doing one of the chapters in this masterclass, so always great to hear what people think about it. But yeah, chat, you are taking it. I heard this 2 days ago when we did the prep that you were in the midst of it. So how far are you, and why did you actually take it?
Well, so I just wanted to kind of learn, basically. You know, there's always good opportunities to learn, and we heard about hiring success through Hire. You know, Natasha introduced us to hiring success, and it just sounded like a great concept. I think, like you say, recruiters are quite often outward facing, looking after everybody else, and there's not, well, there's a CIPD and various other bodies like that, but you know, in terms of free courses that are going to really kind of up your game, you know, I'm not aware of too many that are out there. So just sounded really interesting to me. I was made redundant earlier in the year, and obviously, you know, furloughed and then redundant. So I had a lot of time on my hands. So aside from kind of DIY and the house renovations that we've got going on, I needed to keep my brain engaged. So it just seemed like a great opportunity to try and make sure when I do get back into a recruitment role that I've got this extra kind of ammo to go into it with, really. And yeah, I just found it. I've done the 5 classes out of the 6 being the wrap-up session. I can't say that I've attempted the certification yet, but I'm sure I'll get around to that at some point. But yeah, it just breaks down every aspect of the kind of TA process and journey really well, and makes you think about things in quite a different way as well. So you know, in terms of measuring hiring success and what that is and what it looks like, you know, the twist on recruitment metrics that you guys suggest, I found really interesting in terms of the net hiring score and the hiring success scorecard and things. So that was all very kind of insightful. And then just that focus on stakeholder alignment and engagement, making sure that whatever projects or change management initiative you're going through, that you're always kind of keeping in touch with those stakeholders, that you're thinking about not just landing it, but then what's going to happen afterwards, and that balance between kind of people, process, and technology, and making sure that it's all kind of linked in and working in everybody's favor. So I think it was your session around stakeholder alignment. You were kind of raised the point about thinking about the viewpoints of other stakeholders in the business. So yes, you're putting an ATS, but is your IT director going to be bothered that it has this, CRM function? No, probably not. It's just another system for him to manage. And those kind of insights I found really quite interesting. So yeah, it's good, and you can drop in and out of it as you go. I recommend having like notepad and pen and stuff just to kind of take notes as you go along, because there's a lot to take in. But I did find it very useful.
Great to hear.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it wasn't any good though, were you, Chad? I mean, I know, but I think there's obviously the detail in that is so fantastic, and it's so well thought through from end to end. I just think that anyone in talent acquisition in any kind of role should have a look at that, because it's tailored for you, it's free. I mean, how often can you say that about anything really that improves your skill set? So thank you, Tony, for telling us all about that masterclass hiring success, and we'll share, as you said, we'll share the link to that afterwards with all of the delegates. We'll also share the link to hire if anyone doesn't know where to nav to that, but I'm sure they'll be able to. And also we need to send the link for attendees to send their entries in to win the Appical onboarding app as well, which we will also do. Now we're coming to the end of the session really, and one question, we haven't got an enormous amount of time, but if you've asked a question and we can't answer it today, we will come back to you after the session. We'll connect you with the panelists to answer your question. But there's one particular question which has sort of come to the front, which is, I think, really encapsulates what everyone's asking, which is, if we can ask all of the panelists to turn their cameras back on again, if you don't mind. I don't know if they were expecting this. I hope they're still there. You haven't got into anything. Yeah, okay. So everyone's nearly back. Natasha's not back. The question is, and I hope you can all give us a little bit of insight into this. Of all the things that we've said here in terms of whether it be reskilling or redeploying, or even reboarding, what are the top tips that you would give? Give us maybe a couple each or just one that can give you the maximum impact for the least effort. And I really like this question because that's what everyone wants, isn't it? You talked about ROI, Chad, and this is kind of what we're talking about here, is how can you get the most impact out for the least investment of time, I guess, is probably the most precious thing at the moment, rather than effort or energy, because there's a lot of passion here. So I'm going to pick on Sam, who happens to ask you were nodding, so I'm going to see what
I would say don't try and create it all yourself. There's so much good stuff out there, whether it's hiring success, whether it's stuff from Hire, whether it's other materials that Caterer push out or that's available elsewhere. There is so much great stuff that you can use with yourselves and your teams. So don't spend huge amounts of time creating oodles of new material when actually loads of it exists already, which you can get out there very, very quickly to your teams.
Love it. Efficiencies, use what's out there. Sophie, how about you?
Is that me?
Yes. Sorry, Sophie.
My advice would be know your teams, be in your restaurants already, touch base with people you've already recruited. So if anything ever happens in the future, you're not getting to know them again. You already know them, you've already built those relationships, and you already understand them as people personally, so that if we ever go into lockdown or furlough again, you're just touching base on new skills that they've learned, but you already have that existing relationship.
Yeah. Brilliant advice.
And I think I can add that the first thing that comes to mind, what is the most valuable thing on ROI? And I think it's giving yourself the time. Right? The world will not end if you stop working 1 hour early on Friday and invest that 60 minutes in yourself. That is the best thing. Read, do a webinar, do whatever it is. But we always feel that we are behind on work within recruitment. We always need to deliver yesterday, but give yourself the time to make yourself better. And that's what came up in my mind right now in your question.
Yeah, that's good. That kind of make time for yourself as well as for all of your people. Okay, Chad, anything to add?
Yeah, I think on that point, getting the quickest return in the shortest amount of time possible, I think it would be utilize the people in your network. You know, more heads are better than one. So if you want an answer to something, or if you're not sure how to do something and you want to find out quickly, put it out to who you know. Particularly in hospitality, which is part of the reason I love the industry so much, and kind of what spawned Hire really is everyone seems so happy and willing to work together and share. So just ask, and if someone doesn't know, then they'll probably point you in the right direction anyway.
Connect with your peers, absolutely. Okay, Ollie?
I'm gonna say do take the time. It's tough. It's tough for people, so actually don't rush it. If it's going to take a lot of your time, you're going to have to do it, I'm afraid, because it's about making sure your teams have, if you're making redundancies, they have got the support, and they've got the support from you going into their next role as well. So actually, I think do take the time, but use obviously the resources around you.
Don't cut corners when it matters.
Corners just to save time. Exactly that.
Okay. And Olajide, how about you? Anything to add?
I love that I was left the last one, because all the things I was going to say have now been said.
You've always got something to say. Come on. I know you've got something to
That's why you're left last.
I'd probably say believe in yourself, because I think sometimes in the height of everything that's going on, you can sometimes lose faith in your own ability. So I really would say, like, believe in yourself and believe in your own abilities, and trust and believe that you can get the answer. Like, it might take you some time, but you can get there in the end. And everything that's going on, it's especially in the industry, I think it's really believing in that this industry can survive, and it's gonna be okay at the end of it. So yeah, it's just I would say it's all about trust and believe and in yourself and in the industry.
Wow, this is I think why we saved you for last.
Thanks, guys.
That's such a positive note to wrap up on, and I'm just so grateful that we've had time together to hear this fantastic insight, really positive guidance. And I want to summarize what I've heard, which I think really characterizes hospitality and the role of TA in hospitality, which is think of the people as people, keep communicating with them throughout the process. Do take time where it matters the most. Don't try and cut corners. Utilize technology, utilize new technology to become more efficient and effective. Take time to reskill and upskill yourself. Take time for yourself, and believe that as we go through it, even if we do go back, we will go forward, and things will get better, and we will come out of this. So what a network to be part of, and thank you so much, all of you, for sharing. Thank you to the Hire, thank you to Smart Recruiters, who we love to partner with. Caterer.com are a great partner of Smart Recruiters, and thank you to Appical for offering the brilliant prize, which we'll be coming back to everybody on in terms of getting those entries in and then announcing the winner in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. Bye.